This is the super slim Galaxy S25 Edge, and it's one of my favorite phones I've ever used, with one big exception. We're here in San Francisco checking out some of the most scenic scenes, snapping some photos, and seeing how long that battery really lasts. Let's jump into it. The Galaxy S25 Edge is Samsung's answer to a problem you probably never had. It's a super skinny phone. It's just 5.8 millimeters thick and it weighs 163 grams. Now, I'm actually more impressed with how light this is versus how thin it is. The S25 Edge is technically 1 gram heavier than the baseline S25, but it has that larger 6.7-inch display, just like the one you'll find on the S25 Plus. So it's actually remarkably light for its size. And I do really love having that spacious, smooth 120 hertz display without any of the heft. I hardly feel it when it's in my pocket or purse, and I genuinely enjoy scrolling and typing on something so feather light. It is slightly terrifying to be carrying a phone that seems so delicate without a case, but the S25 Edge actually feels surprisingly sturdy thanks to that Corning Gorilla Glass Ceramic 2 cover and Victus 2 backing. So just how thin is the Galaxy S25 Edge? Well, it's about the same height as a thin crust pizza, in San Francisco at least.
And it's about the same height as 4 pennies stacked together.
Just for the heck of it, let's compare it to another skinny legend, the Oppo Find N5, which measures 8.93 millimeters thick when closed and 4.21 millimeters thick when opened. So still thinner than the S25 Edge when it's unfolded, but still cool to see Samsung join the thin phone club. The S25 Edge has that same IP68 rating for dust and water resistance as the rest of the S25 lineup, so I don't have to worry if I accidentally splash some water on it. This is going to sound a little dramatic, but I've already gotten so used to how light and thin this is that carrying any other phone already feels like an unnecessarily weighty brick. So despite how skeptical I was of this phone, I am starting to see the appeal. Now, what's not so appealing is the price. The Galaxy S25 Edge starts at $1,100 for 256 gigabytes and $1,220 for 512 gigabytes. Both versions come with 12 gigabytes of RAM. The S25 Edge does still cost less than the $1,300 S25 Ultra, but that's not saying much. This phone packs that same Snapdragon 8 Elite processor as the rest of the S25 lineup, which is a nice perk. Apps launch quickly and the phone doesn't get hot when taking photos and videos. That processor helps to power all those Galaxy AI features like generative edit for photos, sketch to image, and audio eraser to help clean up distracting sounds in your videos. The S25 Edge also supports Gemini features like Gemini Live and Circle to Search, which I always rave about being one of my favorite ways to quickly pull up information about whatever's on your screen. Now, the reality is a thinner phone means some scaled back features, and that includes the camera. The S25 Edge has just 2 rear cameras, but one of them is that same 200 megapixel wide that you'll find on the pricier S25 Ultra. And then there's also a 12 megapixel selfie camera on the front. I honestly really love the pictures that I've taken on this phone. It does a really great job taking sharp, vibrant images that aren't over or undersaturated. I had a lot of fun snapping portrait shots of my friends at a graduation party, and they were also over the moon with the results. The foreground is consistently in crisp focus, the background has that nice subtle blur, and there's just a nice evenness in tone throughout. Selfies are also smooth and flattering while also preserving detail and sharpness. Even after the sunset, the camera still did a good job capturing that detail and brightening things up, with the help of AI, of course. The S25 Edge has 0.6x, 1x, and 2x magnification options. No telephoto lens means that's all you're getting. There's also digital zoom that goes up to 10x, which I tend to avoid using because images can start to get a little noisy there, but it doesn't do a bad job. But those first 3 preset magnification options tend to do the job for me, and I don't particularly miss having a telephoto camera. And now it is time to talk about the phone's biggest weakness, the battery. That's one of the major trade-offs you'll have to brace yourself for if you want a slimmer phone, because less space means a smaller battery, which means shorter battery life. The Galaxy S25 Edge has a 3,900 milliamp hour battery, which is the smallest amount that you'll find across the S25 series. I was really hoping I wouldn't really feel this difference, but unfortunately in the week that I've spent using this phone so far, I definitely do feel that difference, and Samsung has said that this phone supports all-day battery life, and that's exactly what you should expect, not more than that. I am a pretty heavy phone user, so I managed to pack in a good amount of social media scrolling, texting, navigating, photography, and streaming, and I even made a few phone calls. Remember those? With all that, the Edge can get through a day on a single charge, but not much more than that, and that was the same pattern over several days. I'll also note that I have the always-on display enabled, which can take a slight toll on the battery, but I just can't live without it. I had hoped there would at least be super fast charging to make up for the shorter battery life, but sadly, the S25 Edge only supports 25-watt wired charging, charging and 15-watt wireless charging, which is also pretty slow for a phone in 2025. In CNET's 30-minute charging test, the Edge went from 0% to 48% and reached a full battery in about an hour and 15 minutes. Battery life is one of the biggest considerations when people buy new phones, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is a deal breaker for a lot of folks. But personally, that's a compromise that I might be willing to make just because I charge my phone each night anyway. I didn't really expect the Galaxy S25 Edge to change my priorities so much, but I really do enjoy that sleeker form factor. That said, I do hope the next version of this phone, if there is one, scales up battery life because I'd rather not have to compromise. So, should you get the Galaxy S25 Edge? As always, it's all about what's most important to you. If you're tired of the same boring phones every year, this sleek form factor can be a breath of fresh air. I genuinely can't believe how quickly I've gotten used to this design, and now I really want every phone to be this thin and light. But I also want phones like this to have longer battery life, which you'll just have to accept you're not getting with the S25 Edge. Yes, it will last you all day like Samsung says, but I'd rather not be cutting it so close. I prefer to have some spillover battery at the end of the day, which you're not really going to get with this phone. I don't think most people will feel like they're compromising much with the camera. You'll still get crisp, vibrant shots minus those sharper close-up images you'd get with a telephoto lens, but personally, I don't see that as a big deal. Ultimately, cutting back on thickness means cutting some corners, and personally, I'm okay with that. But what do you think? Are you intrigued by the Galaxy S25 Edge, or do you still see it as a sleek gimmick, or are you waiting on somebody else, say Apple, to release their own thin phone? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more on all things tech. Thanks for watching.